a little different, right? And I'm going on vacation tomorrow, starting tomorrow. I'm going to Tokyo. So it'll be Ian and Andrea Jensen-Berg that'll be filling in for me while I'm gone. We're just kind of figuring out some stuff here. We're a little bit late here as I fiddle with things. What do you think of my tie, though? Right? Looks pretty good, though, right? Well, let's get into it. Let's get into it. Somebody touched my computer, though, so too that's not working either. But let's go. Oil pipeline to the BC coast. Deal imminent? Tories accused of hiding behind curtains in bid to save Liberals? Joly talks jets and space. Swedes and Carney signed some stuff. That's about it, some stuff. What's a little corruption between friends? And Canada commits money to the EU Space Agency. Immigration minister says immigration, not a strain on healthcare. Immigrants enter Canada with an iPhone app. Canada Post is about to go bust. Canada trying to meet NATO targets with creative accounting. BC finally scraps the EV mandate. And Trump has a royal party. It's more like a goat gathering. And Epstein, about to hit the fan. And Toyota goes full MAGA. So all the people that are freaked out about Donald Trump got TDS. Looks like you're going to have to sell your Toyota. All that and a lot more on the really big show. Toyota is a very popular vehicle, so that's going to cause some mass sales of Toyotas, I think. Hey?
The most popular, I think, isn't it? Just about.
They are the #1 automobile seller in the world by volume, by pure volume, for sure. They are that at first. But this would be the news of the year if this goes through. But Robert Fife, like with the Ottawa bureau chief of the Globe and Mail, he put this out, so it must be pretty close to the truth. We've been hearing lots of rumblings. Daniel Smith kind of alludes to it too. Says that there's a deal close that includes a pipeline to the BC coastline. David Eby must be pulling out his hair.
I mean, I'm sorry to say this, David Eby, and I know you're watching, great friend of the show that you are, but he's an easy guy to disappoint, isn't he? And to want to disappoint and to be okay about disappointing. I think he's shown himself to be quite an opportunist, not just with this issue, but over the last couple of years. And I feel like, say what you want about Danielle Smith, I think she's less likely to be called an opportunist. She's pretty much stuck to her guns since she came onto the scene, really. She's always been saying the same thing. And I get a feeling that Mark Carney, he's probably looking at that and he thinks, all right, I've got to let one of these down. David Eby's going to whine either way. Might as well let him down, really. Then nothing's going to change. He's just going to continue whining.
Yeah, I mean, you have to ask yourself, you rather have straight shooters in politics or somebody that just tells you what you want to hear and never does anything? I think we've had enough of that. Danielle Smith, definitely a straight shooter, tells you like it is, even if you don't like it. And I would even say, like, not the saying it's just, because she's a conservative and that, but I mean, Jean Chrétien was a straight shooter. He'd tell you the way it was. But today's Liberals definitely not straight shooters.
Justin's father, Pierre, was shooter. Also a bit more of a straight shooter, wasn't he? That's what most people liked about him. People have a lot of respect for politicians that stick to their guns and say it as it is. And I know Danielle Smith has been accused loads of times of being a bit sketchy and a bit sort of deceptive, but generally speaking, she's pretty much always said the same things, hasn't she? You can't say that about David Eby, who's just found LNG now. I know he's all about resources development and he's all about chucking people in asylums involuntarily to try and get rid of crime. And it's David Eby's opinions seem to just change at the click of a finger. So definitely, I think remove the partisan stuff. I think we can come to a consensus. Everybody can sit in this symposium and come to a consensus that that's true about Danielle Smith.
And I would say the Liberals are in there too with the LNG thing. Remember, no business case for LNG, and that included Mark Carney when he was the economic advisor for the past 5 years. Trudeau told Japan, Germany, and South Korea no business case for LNG. Turns out there's massive business cases for LNG because they're all rushing for it now. And guess who signed all those deals? Our deals that were offered to us 2 years earlier. And that would be Donald J. Trump and the Americans signed all those deals, our deals, which we could use right now. And also, we have to remember the Liberals kiboshed the Northern Gateway Pipeline. And Mark Carney spoke in committee and said that it should not go forward. And now, hopefully...
And Energy East, but
yeah,
that's just never going to be resurrected, is it? Because Quebec's too powerful and we accept that.
But lots of royalty floating around, and Mark Carney had to match Donald Trump's royalty. But we're going to start with Mark Carney because we do the Canadian content first. Mark Carney, I didn't even know the Swedes had royalty still. That's how much I know about this Swedish royalty. But the ties between Canada and Sweden are founded on shared values. This is Mark Carney. So they did the, they really like to, Mark Carney really likes to copy what the Americans do. They do. This is more like signing of a guest book, though, because this agreement they signed, that's why we kind of said Swedes and Carney signed some stuff, because it's a, they announced this strategic partnership, but it's not a binding thing. It's just a political agreement, essentially a framework of intentions,
Did you see the press release, though? Absolutely massive. It's like the longest press release I've ever seen from Mark Carney's office. It's just like, as usual, just like when somebody wants to say something or write something, if they're trying to avoid getting to the heart of the issue, they'll write sort of like 50 sentences with 7-syllable words because they've just got nothing to say.
Bilateralism, all the buzzwords, that joint defense procurement, expanded research partnerships, supply chain cooperation, climate energy initiatives, talent attraction programs, northern infrastructure and indigenous partnership work, AI, quantum, 5G, 6G cooperation, health and pandemic preparedness. Remember the Swedes on pandemic preparedness? Not going to have it.
Well, their approach was the most the unique approach among Western countries, wasn't it? They kind of let it work itself out.
But you go ahead and read this, because right. If you can't dazzle them with brilliance with a 2-line sentence, if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit, and that's where you get like this long document. Same as the budget. The budget was like 500 pages of nothingness. But here you go. The bottom line, though, is that this is a political roadmap and not a binding agreement. It just basically says, they're going to work on some stuff together. But all the real work still has to be negotiated because, the royalty in Sweden really don't have much power either. They're more figureheads.
Yeah, it's a constitutional monarchy as created by the English. It's just another imitation of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it's the very much performative. Again, Mark Carney looking over at Trump and his pomp and that. But nobody does pomp like the British, though. Like, if you really want to do pomp, even Trump pales in comparison to what the King Charles and the gang in the UK can do when you talk about pomp.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the Chinese, I guess you could say, have their own sort of thing with like the Mao jumpsuits and Xi Jinping in a tank, sort of like talking about the comrades who sacrificed while massive rockets go down the street. But that's a bit crass anyway, isn't it? That's just a bit lame. So I think that is probably true. And the Americans try. Like, give them that credit. They do try. Show. With like the stealth bombers flying over and the cheerleaders and stuff.
We do have that coming up. So Trump had some royalty himself there, and he had some goats there too. He had a room full of goats at the White House. You're going to stick around to find out what the heck I'm talking about. But he had a room full of goats, and Canada has a room full of sheep, I think sometimes, but bad sheep too. But here you go, Mark Carney boasting. Let's hear it.
Mr. Speaker, the rate of inflation is down. Mr. Speaker, job creation is up. Mr. Speaker, ambition and confidence in this country is sky high. We believe in Canada. We are investing in Canada. Today is the opportunity for every member of this House to join us. Mr. Speaker.
That's good. That's good. Running on repeat.
Yeah, he's really, considering he kept on saying, I'm not a politician, I'm not a politician, I'm not a politician. And at press conferences in the early days, he was like, I'm going to say some things that you're not used to. Like, watch out, everybody. Yeah. Now he just sounds like any politician. Like, that could be anybody in the House of Commons saying that.
And he said he's not the slogan guy like Pierre Poilievre. That's all I hear is slogans. But a lot of that stuff is stretching. Some of it is far-fetched, never mind stretching. I mean, you could argue inflation was down for the month, but overall it's not down for the year. Again, you're just picking a stat and kind of like, but investment in Canada is sky high? No. Here's a dose of reality. Here's the OECD GDP forecast for 2020 to 2030.
Per capita, yeah.
Who's that on the bottom?
It's terrible. It's really very, very sad, isn't it? I mean, a lot of these countries, like Turkey, obviously, Turkey is quite a bit down the kind of income scale. So they have ground to make up, you could say. Okay. And that's also true to an extent of Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Hungary, a lot of those people. But then you have the US. You know, they don't need to catch up with anybody. The world is trying to catch up with them. And yet they're still going to grow faster than we are. And this is the saddest thing of all about Canada is Canada used to be one of the countries that all these countries were trying to catch up to. But after so many years, roughly 10 years, let's say, since about 2015, Canada's just given up so much ground. This is like the tortoise and the hare, isn't it? Canada is the hare, and we've fallen asleep, and now we're being overtaken by all these tortoises, like Turkey the tortoise.
This reminds me of a movie, Talladega Nights. If you ain't first, you're last. Ricky Bobby. So I guess if we can't be first, we might as well be last. So if you ain't first, you're last.
But you just can't dine out on the past, and that's kind of what Canada's been doing. Like the standard of living in Canada is still higher than a lot of these countries, if not most of them. But you know that's not going to last very long. I mean, it's being burned away at a very, very rapid pace.
Yeah, and again, we thank you for all your comments and sharing. And that one of a note here, I do have the mayor of Kelowna in at 11. So if you're interested in that, I do have the mayor in, and so that'll be interesting. And again, I'll be gone from Wednesday. I think I'll be back. I think on the 1st or the 2nd of December. So have patience with Andrea and Ian while I'm gone, and appreciate that and sharing this. And you know, we're trying to grow this audience and try to tell you the straight goods as opposed to narratives that come across. We're going to take a look at the CBC later today as we do the show, as we usually do, to see what they're trying to tell you. But take a look at what we do, and then take a look at what they do. And we don't have $1.55 billion. We don't even have a makeup person or a hair person or, you know, a wardrobe person or anything yet, right?
You can probably tell.
Well, I've got a nice tie today, so there you go. I'm wearing
you've got a wardrobe person somewhere hidden in the office.
I'm wearing the Liberal tie, the Jean Chrétien tie here today. Here's Andrew Scheer, who once was the leader of the opposition, talking about TC Energy investing $8.5 billion. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Really good news for some, $8.5 billion. That's how much TC Energy just announced that it is investing in the energy sector. In fact, they said that they were betting big on the energy sector. Bad news is that's in the United States. $8.5 billion from a Canadian company invested in the United States instead of investing that here in Canada. That's $8.5 billion that will put people to work, pay royalties to state governments, create thousands of jobs in spin-offs, and of course provide Americans with safe and secure energy sources. I remember when TC Energy was called TransCanada Energy, and after 10 years of Liberal policies absolutely devastating the energy sector here in Canada, they decided to take that word Canada out of its name, and now they're just known by TC Energy. So the Commonwealth of Virginia will see a major pipeline built by Canadian companies. That could have happened here, but it is not.
If Mélanie Joly is the queen of the photo op, Andrew Scheer is definitely really good at social media. He's made all those funny videos. You know, maybe that's his calling. He can be a social media influencer as well. He's pretty good at it.
You can come and join us here on YouTube. I'm sure he'd have something pithy to say. But that is so sad, and I was kind of hoping, because I haven't seen this video, I was kind of hoping that he was going to mention a little bit about the history of that company, because it is like, it's so sad, isn't it? Like, it doesn't get more Canadian than that. I think it was created by an act of parliament. It's like the whole purpose of it was to build pipelines in Canada, and now off it goes with billions of dollars to spend in America. And obviously, you can say what you want about the specifics of this case. You know, I'm sure defenders of Mark Carney and the Liberal government would do that. But generally speaking, America is vastly more friendly to natural resources development, or has been at least. So this is kind of a feature of the system, the political and economic system that we have in place in Canada. So in that sense, it's an indictment of, at least once again, the last 10 years.
Who thinks that Ian and I should get access to Mark Carney to talk to him? Because where's the question? Because it was announced about a week ago. Cameco and Brookfield, two Canadian companies that own Westinghouse together, are investing 80 billion US, over 100 billion Canadian, into the United States to build 8 nuclear reactors. Not in Canada. When Mark Carney just made that speech up there and talking about investment in Canada is sky high, you know, confidence in Canada is sky high. Why don't they ask the question? Why is Brookfield investing in the United States when it's a Canadian company, as is Cameco? Why is the investment not happening here in Canada? Be a good question.
And somebody's just mentioned here, Canada Kid on YouTube, talking about Europe. And it's just so sad. Like, talking about selling oil to Europe, I mean. It's just so sad. Like, you talk about Churchill there. I don't know how realistic, really. You know, it's still quite experimental, that, isn't it? It's limited, very limited option. The port of Montreal and the St. Lawrence, that's like, in a sense, that is Canada. That's why Canada exists, is because of that river.
Yep.
That's how it all started, because that river is the access point to the world. And what a shame that we can't bloody sell our main export, our main, like, money earner. We can't really sell it through there because of a certain kind of diseased ideology that's taken root in Quebec. And that's just it. And the Liberal Party, which represents Quebec, or at least, you know, people in Quebec that want to remain part of Canada, they're not going to sell the Quebecois down the river. They're not going to do it, because then they would lose power. So here we are. We're just sort of stuck here, and we're just trapped in this insane asylum of our own creation.
And the Churchill port, while it's something worth investing in, is only open half the year. And the second part, it needs billions of dollars of investment. I mean, it's been neglected. It's basically the railroad's busted towards it. Everything is like, it's nowhere near. And it needs to be done. But Ian's right. The one that matters is the St. Lawrence Seaway and the northern coastline. That is the two that matter. Because the alternatives are the Keystone Pipeline, or the one that Trump is talking about, and that is the, you know, Danielle has been, you know, talking about, you know, like to Alaska, north to Alaska. And at some point, we have to take our energy seriously. Nobody does, no other country does what we do in an energy-rich country, and that is like self-inflict harm upon ourselves.
It's true. At least nothing on the scale. I mean, you could say like Venezuela, because they have such a stupid system in Venezuela, that dictatorship of an idiot. They've trashed their natural resources industry. But that's obviously a very special, like, unique case, isn't it? There's no sort of free, open, democratic country like Canada, with the resources Canada has, that's done what Canada's done. Not even the Aussies. The Australia, in many ways, kind of like the perfect comparison. Very, very similar history, created by similar people, both part of the British Empire, creations of the British Empire. But the Aussies, they don't mess about at all. They sell anything. You know, they sell all their coal, they sell gas, you know, minerals. They don't mess about. And have a look at GDP per capita or living standards tables. Look where Australia is. Look where Canada is. You know, it tells a story.
The Conservatives didn't do themselves any favor, though. Why weren't they just honest with it and say they didn't want an election, they're going to pass this and see where it goes? But, you know, somebody calling them out, you can literally see them hiding behind the curtains. You can kind of see the shoulder poking out there, you know, as they're waiting to see if they needed to do it or not. And that in the House of Commons there during that Monday budget vote so they could make sure the Liberal government didn't fall. Kind of just doesn't, it just looks so disingenuous. It was a bad look, right? It was just a bad look. Just come out and say what it is, right? I think you get more mileage out of it than you know, like now you got to defend this. This is their little talking point. The CBC and CTV are just going to attack this point over and over and over again because, you know, it just looks, it has a bad look to it.
It's especially bad, I think, for two reasons. One is it's the opposition. The opposition in any sort of political system is supposed to be the principled one that like stands on principles, and they're sort of admirable and strong and bold. And it's like, you know, we know what we're about. We know what the right thing to do is. Whereas with a government, you expect a government party in government to have to make compromises. It's something, it's just part of the job. So you kind of expect it. But for this to be the opposition, that's one thing. It's just it looks terrible. But then it's especially bad because it's Pierre Poilievre, whose entire shtick, his entire brand is the upright, sort of like clearly spoken, I'm the principled one. I know what's right. The Liberals have no idea. And that's why they keep making mistakes. It's because I base my decisions on principle, unlike them. That's his whole kind of, that's how he sells himself. And then he's done this slimy, disgusting thing where he's just lied to the Canadian population and said that this is a terrible budget, doesn't deserve to pass, we're going to vote against it, and then allows it to pass because he doesn't want an election. But he does have the cojones to come out and say that. It stinks. It smells like death, that. And it's a terrible thing to happen to Pierre Poilievre, or for him to allow to happen when he's about to have his leadership reviewed, because it's just another reason, and there are quite a few now, why the Tory members might want to get rid of him, because it just stinks. It's just crap politics as well. It's a really feeble approach to politics, and you know, everybody makes mistakes, but that's a hell of a mistake.
I would say that, you know, like the Liberals are full of, and we're going to see some of waste, fraud, corruption, abuse, all that kind of stuff. If you want to stand out, though, take the high road and be the honest person. Have the transparency, have the accountability where you can stand on it. And this damages you because now they can point back at it and say, look, you know, you say we're bad, look at this. And they can just distract and detract from it by, you know, this silliness. It just plays out really poorly. And that's the bigger problem in this whole thing. And because, again, I could show you, well, we have shown you time and time again on how the Liberals are not straight. Mark Carney is not straight, even though Elizabeth May think so. But she's no decent judge of character. Our friend Lightning Rod is back. Welcome back. And he wants us to explain the discount of Western Canadian Select. Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious. Western Canadian Select is sold at a discount because we only have one customer. What are you going to do? They tell you this is what they're willing to pay.
It's also the refining necessary, isn't it? Because it's like heavy oil and all that.
That's a part of it, though. But the bigger part
discount
of it
the discount is massive because we can't get it out there to the world.
Because if we had, because there's other dirty oil out there that sells for more than Western Canadian Select as well. Dirtier oil, I should say. Heavy oil. Anyway, Francois Philippe Champagne. You know, he's going to tell you why we need to get CCUS going, because the world wants it. Just not sure which part of the world is asking for it. Let's listen to what Francois has to say.
Is there money in the budget to meet the climate targets that the Prime Minister has said there will be to get that green vote?
There's a significant climate competitiveness strategy which is outlined in the budget. You'd see there's probably about 10 pages, which really outlines Canada's vision. We are very committed because, you know, this is not only the right thing, but the smart thing to do. You know, countries are investing to decarbonize industry, and I think in Canada, we are a leader in green technologies.
We're the leader in green technologies in a competition of one.
I mean, I thought China was the leader.
Yeah.
That's last I heard from the Liberal Party. Certainly, China is a leader in output. Most green technology, so-called green technology in the world, comes from China, as most people are aware of now. But we hear this all the time. What is Canada not a leader in? AI, space. We're going to hear all about Canada's great
chips. Don't forget chips.
Space contributions.
Mark Carney said chips. We're a leader and supplier of chips.
Yeah, that was a bit of a blunder, that one, wasn't it? What else are we a leader in? I mean, just everything. I mean, even like cultural, artistic. It's all. They'll just say that we're a leader in anything, won't they? It's something to take with a gigantic bucket of salt.
What's a little corruption between friends? Anita Nan says, it's not so bad, is it? Right? That Ukraine corruption thing is starting to blow up there. I mean, that's been going on forever. That was prior to the war. There's, you could almost say Ukraine was the corruption capital of the world there. It was also the playground of the oligarchs there from Russia. There's all kinds of sex trafficking. And Hunter Biden was also, what was he, a president of one of those companies? He was a big deal there in Ukraine there with an oil company. He can't get a job now. Maybe he should go there and work with Chrystia Freeland. She's got that $4.5 billion that they can't tell you how they're going to dole out. Wonder why they can't tell. They told us Go ahead.
The thing with Ukraine is, I'm not trying to belittle Ukraine in any way here, or sort of buy into the sort of bollocks that comes out of Russian propaganda machines. But Ukraine and Russia they are quite similar countries. And Russia, as we all know, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, became this like horrible mafia state, like oligarchy, full of all these gangsters that seized, like the oil and the gas, and they seized all the state companies and set themselves up as like princes basically within Russia. A very similar thing also happened in Ukraine, and there's a Ukrainian oligarchy. Any Ukrainian will tell you this, or you can just Google it and spend 5 minutes reading about it. But it's, you mentioned like the human trafficking. There was also like there's nothing in Ukraine that these thieves and criminals and scumbags will not sell, even up to and including the soil, the very earth of Ukraine, because they have black soil, which is extremely valuable, extremely sort of fertile. They will even sell that, and they've done it, to a horrible extent. So Ukraine, unfortunately, is full of these. They're just horrible arms dealers, like all kinds of scumbags, these oligarchs. And that's why Ukraine has this reputation for corruption. And obviously the Ukrainian people hate them and despise that. But that's the predicament they're in. But for Canada just to come in, and it's not just Canada, obviously, and all these Western countries, to just come in and pretend all of a sudden that Ukraine is, this great democracy, this healthy, vibrant democracy that just at the click of a finger, all of a sudden they're going to become just like sort of Sweden or something like that. It's just it's insulting, really, to be told that, isn't it? Especially by this woman here who's Canada's chief diplomat. She's supposed to be the giga brain that knows all about the rest of the world and can figure things out and act on our behalf. It's just a little bit disappointing, really, that we can't just hear the truth.
I've done an interview just recently again with Dennis Thorchuk, and he had brought in with him Andre, and I can't pronounce his last name. It was a long name. And Andre was fighting in the front lines. He was a drone pilot, and he shared a little bit of his experiences in the front line. He got injured, and he's here in Canada now. And they were in here asking why, they were asking for people to sign a petition. You can go find that, sign a petition. I think they just put the link into it. They sign a petition to get PR status for the 300,000 Ukrainians that are here in Canada. But Dennis said Mark Carney told him himself that Zelensky said, no, don't sign those. We don't want that. They want those people back in Ukraine. And I interviewed a 17-year-old boy that can't get his PR status either, and he's going to get sent back. And he, the first thing to do when he get off the plane is he's going to get picked up in a bus or whatever and shipped to the front line for the meat grinder.
And that's one of their biggest biggest crises right now. First, I mean, they've got so many, but this is one, is that so many people are just running away. They've quite literally run out of young people to recruit.
Well, big day for Mélanie Joly. First of all, I didn't see this in the budget. This is what I don't understand. Here it is, $500 million. Just boom, we're going to commit that to the European Space Agency. I didn't even know they had a European Space Agency. I know they did, but I mean, it's pretty minimal compared to, you know, SpaceX and the rest of them. But sure. Well, where was that in the budget? I didn't see it. Did you see it in the budget?
Can't say I did, although it was a very long budget, so maybe they slipped it in somewhere. But
500 pages.
I like how they talk about how this is all about Canada, and this is like, it's going to be great for Canadian technology and great for Canadian space, but it's kind of like, it does have the word European in it, European Space Agency. But I think this is just, like, you know, Canada's worked with NASA quite a lot, hasn't it, in the past? I think this is just another attempt to make the Americans jealous, isn't it? And it's like, you know, we're going to go with the Europeans, America.
So she says they're doing this. So we're going to play a little clip here. You got a clip here. Let's listen to Mélanie Joly first.
I'm also very preoccupied of what's going on in our different democracies around the world and the lack of trust of people towards governments, institutions, etc. And you can, you know, continue to do a lot of virtual signaling, you know, try to talk about values, but fundamentally people want results, and that's why they don't necessarily trust the institutions or trust the governments. So I'm a very pragmatic person, and I like seeing results, and I really think that more will be able to say to Canadians, things are complicated maybe with the US to say the least, and the world is more complicated, but you can look at your wife or your husband going back home and say, I have a good job and I have a good career and we'll be okay. And you can look at your, you know, kids and grandkids in the eyes and say, you know what, that, you know, we're in the right country and your future will be fine.
That's good.
And you'll have a good job too.
I think people lack trust.
So now Mélanie Joly's a pragmatist as well. That's yet another pragmatist has managed to come out of the shadows of the Trudeau government.
I think Canadians lost trust in the Liberals because of all the fraud, waste, corruption. You could say fraud, incompetence, whatever you want to call it there, because they won't reveal the documents, so you can't really say whether it's fraud or just incompetence. Like Stephen Guilbeault, where are the documents for that $250 million that allegedly has been funneled into your green scheme companies? Like, there's so many documents that you won't reveal. And that's why people don't trust the government. That's why they don't trust the government. That's why these budgets, right now, you just did a budget for $76 billion, was it? $76 billion? And
that was the deficit, wasn't it?
The deficit, sorry. And then here's $500 million for the space thing. No mention of it, because that's a big deal. Like, where's the $500 million? So is this budget even going to be adhered to? Because where did you get $500 million just to chuck at the European Space Agency and then brag about that? It's, you know, Canada's the first, you know, non-European Union to chuck money at it. Okay.
I find it so strange to hear someone who's had a pretty major role in degrading the level of trust Canadians have in their institutions and in their government, coming out now, hearing that same person come out now and talk about exactly that, how trust has been lost, and I'm the one to get it back. I'm the one, because I'm such an excellent administrator, I'll bring it back. You know, why would you want to do that? Like, why would you want to give the guy that burned down the house the opportunity of, you know, protecting it from fire in the future? It's just very peculiar, but we don't have time to go through all of the gigantic scandals that her government under Justin Trudeau was involved in. But just one right off the top of my head here, the truckers' protest. Do you think the way that they were treated helped at all with Canadians' trust in their government? Just one example.
One of the darkest times in Canadian history, the abuse of power and privilege, evoking the Emergencies Act for mainly peaceful protests. I mean, we got to name many, many protests that were way more violent. These are basically honking, noise violations, and parking violations. And also what it was is it embarrassed the government. So there you go. So they invoked the Emergencies Act because they were embarrassed. Because of their own actions, they were embarrassed. And if you want to, let's jump into this because we got lots. Here's some more embarrassment. Mélanie Joly, the photo op queen. This might go down as the best photo op one so far this year. She even put the flight suit on for this one. Mélanie Joly sports this fashionable military flight suit and belt as they talk jets. And then, you know, like, it's wild. You know, Francois Philippe Champagne was making shoes for his budget, and here's Mélanie Joly putting the flight suit on. Maybe she's going to be the pilot. But as you know, they're talking about the Gripen versus the F-35. You know, like, and CTV doing a little pitch for it. Let's. You got this clip here for CTV as they pitch for the government. And farther down there, there's the one right there. You see it? He's got it. We'll get it. Again, we don't have that budget that CBC has. It's close though. We're well.
This one, it's a Gripen E.
On a tarmac in Sweden, Saab showed off the fighter jet it hopes Canada will buy.
So it's really state-of-the-art systems packed in here.
Part of the company's sales pitch is that the Gripen is perfectly suited to protect the Arctic.
What we designed the system for is actually to be able to withstand the extreme max in terms of cold, so minus 40, minus 45. We should be able to land on a road on full packed with ice, be able to turn around in 10 minutes.
As the battle of the fighter jets revved up, Saab also suggested Gripens could be assembled on Canadian soil, creating, it says, 10,000 manufacturing and research jobs. But some Canadian contractors say a deal with Saab could also cost jobs. L3 Harrison, Quebec is aiming to set up a maintenance hub for the F-35.
Here we're talking about preserving the jobs of 1,600 Canadians today, the creation of an additional 5,000 jobs for the F-35.
In 2023, Canada agreed to buy 16 stealth fighters built by U.S.-based Lockheed Martin, with an option to scale up to 88. But Ottawa is reviewing the deal in the middle of a trade war. Analysts say Canada faces a tough choice.
The question you have to ask yourself is...
That's good. A little fact check there. We agreed to that when Stephen Harper agreed to buy the F-35s. And then Trudeau said no, and then they re-agreed to buy them in 2023. So...
and now they're complaining about it, saying they didn't get enough, and it was a bad deal. So why'd you sign it then?
So they've been hand-wringing on this deal forever. But we did a little comparison on the F-35. We used our friend, the most intelligent thing on the planet now, the F-35 in stealth, and we got a few categories here. Stealth and survivability. F-35, clear winner, because the other jet, the Gripen, is not even a stealth jet. So there you go. It has, it's nowhere close to the F-35. So even though the Gripen has a little bit more speed and agility in dogfights, you won't find the F-35 until you're dead, basically. The F-35 will nullify the Gripen before you even see it. So F-35 wins when you kill it before you even see it. But it does,
and
it is better.
Even worse than that, because we're not expecting as a country to have to go head-to-head with F-35s, you know. Heaven forfend such a thing should happen, because that would mean, in theory, that we were fighting like what we now consider to be a friend. So that's maybe not the best thing to compare it to. But if you look at its rivals in the sort of hostile countries, it's like the Sukhoi, I can't remember what it's called now, the Russian one. That one has a pretty sophisticated stealth system and is considered to be pretty powerful, certainly better than the Gripen. And then the Chinese have just knocked out a 5th-gen fighter, haven't they? The Mighty Dragon or something like that it's called. Something crass and ridiculous like that. But that also has like high-quality stealth and would also obliterate, I'm sorry to say, the Gripen. So, yeah, it might work in cold weather or something like that, and the Swedes might be sort of dangling this possible prospect of jobs. But if you actually put it into the field against, let's say, Russian jets, because that's the most likely opponent, then those Russian Sukhois are they're gonna knock it out. And what will be the point?
So here's the biggest advantage of the Gripen, and this is the truth, It's cheaper. And Canada seems to like cheaper. Because, you know, like we bought BC Ferries, went and bought cheaper ferries. Cheaper. So cheaper doesn't mean better, right? because it requires smaller crews. You know, it's designed to take off from highways and operate in harsh weather. But I mean, if you're talking about a fighter jet, again, fighter jet, so it's supposed to be fighting jet, you know what I mean, a fighter jet to fight other jets. If you're looking for to add to Transport Canada's, you know, flying Mélanie Joly around for photo ops, maybe this is the one to get.
Somebody just asked here, Brian Benny just asked, does the Gripen have a tissue box holder for crying? That is an important question, isn't it?
I think you might want to ask if it has an eject button. Then again, technology, sensors, and this is important. This is absolutely important. Technology, sensors, combat awareness. F-35 is the king. Best sensors in the world, maintains total control of that battle space. And the other thing that is super important, it communicates with the Americans. Because who protects our north right now? It isn't us. It's Americans. With F-35s.
It's our valiant Inuit who are there with, you know, a World War II rifle between them.
F-35s and I think it's F-22 Raptors, the nuclear subs, nuclear warships. And
I think the F-22, the Americans don't give that to anyone else, do they? It's just theirs. I don't think any other country has F-22s, but I think they are better than the F-35, at least in head-to-head. But, you know, not to worry, unless as Chrystia Freeland speculated, unless we go to war with the Americans, in which case we're buggered.
Well, you know, weapons loadout too. Again, fighter jet. The F-35 wins again. Larger payload, internal base for stealth missions, external hard points. Superiority, F-35. What fits better? And again, if we're looking for something just that we can land it on a highway, an ice-covered highway, let's buy the Gripen. If we're looking for something that's cheaper, let's buy the Gripen. There you go.
If we're looking to win dogfights against the Russians, don't buy the Gripen.
Yeah, I mean, here's the, you know, the only thing that the, you know, the Gripen will probably do is it's good if we're going to fight some, you know, like third world nation or something. But hey.
But this is like, it gets to the bottom of it all, really, doesn't it? This is why it's such a big issue. It gets to the bottom of this revolution the Liberals have had in their party and their attitude towards defense and the military. We're going to find out whether it's for real, whether it's actually because we want to be tough and powerful, or if we want another welfare scheme, another jobs distribution scheme. Is that what it's going to be about? Or is it going to be about actually having a strong military? So it's very interesting to watch. But obviously something that we haven't said, which maybe goes without saying, but we'll say it anyway. This is all about the lovers' tiff that's going on between the US and Canada, isn't it? Like, this is the Liberals trying to make the Americans get jealous and come back to the bridal chamber and be a good, faithful husband again. That's at the end of the day, that's what this is all about, isn't it?
We're going to talk about it later, and it sounds like the Saudis are going to buy some F-35s. And the Americans only sell those F-35s to friendly nations. They're not selling them to, you know, like, so they can arm nations that they would consider to be enemies of the United States. So the F-35 is still one of the preeminent jets that is sold that protects F-35s, flown by Israel. And look at Israel's Air Force compared to the people around it. That's why the Saudis want F-35s, right? Because they're stealth jets. Why wouldn't we want a stealth jet? Just like, again, if we're trying to buy the cheapest thing ever, awesome. Let's just, you know, make sure that Mélanie Joly gets a photo op there. And she, like, I mean, it's so performative. Like that, putting on the jumpsuit and making these things, it just makes.
See how nice her hair looked, though. Pretty good performance.
Makes you sigh. Brookfield announces, I guess this is a cool one here, but announces that it's going to, it's targeting $10 billion of fund commitments for AI partnerships with NVIDIA. And then, you know, like Brookfield manages $1 trillion of assets and among the key players in building out capital. But all this talk is they're talking about doing stuff in Kuwait and different things. And guess who's on his way to the UAE? Mark Carney. But no talk about where this money is
getting sniped at for doing that. Have you seen that? He's being sniped at by CBC. Even their main bulletin on the radio was, oh, you know, why is he going to the UAE? These very very sketchy people, and they're funding all kinds of horrible things around the world.
It's like
all right. So I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Are we gonna quibble about things like that until they accept our grants for what, gender equal rice or whatever it is? Until they subscribe to our worldview, we're not going to do business with them.
But the other thing is, Brookfield has over $1 trillion in assets and seems to be investing like crazy in the United States. And Mark Carney said the reason he signed the paperwork for it to move them to the United States was to access capital. Yet he says to you, you must buy Canadian, invest in Canada, buy in Canada. Wasn't Evan Solomon standing on a soapbox just the other day screaming that out there? Invest in Canada, buy in Canada. Was he speaking to Mark Carney? Because Brookfield, again, here's more money talked about, but if it was being invested in Canada, they would be touting it like they would be blowing it up from the rooftops, selling it on a mountain. But not so much. Here's where the Liberal cabinet ministers take us like we're fools. The immigration minister says immigration is no strain on healthcare. It just goes against all your common sense. You have to say to yourself, what? What? How is that possible? We had record in immigration. Wasn't 1.5 million people? And it doesn't strain our immigration? I mean, our healthcare? And that's what she said. New immigrants are no strain on the healthcare system, since many doctor immigration, that's what she said, will let 1 million foreigners into Canada this year on permanent and temporary permits. But hey, no strain. Many who are arriving are doctors. They just don't get to work as doctors. Again, I interviewed the Ukrainian fellow that was in the army. His wife is a doctor, and she says it's many, many years if she wants to go back into the medical field, but she was a doctor in Ukraine. So, I mean, again, they just tell you nonsensical things, but, the questions that were asked, how many more patients can our healthcare system handle this year, according to your department's analysis? And then she said, the immigration minister, that's not a fair question for immigration. You're letting all these people in. Millions of Canadians don't have a doctor, like a family physician. You're letting in more people. Common sense says it's going to add strain. Like, you're challenging people's common sense with math.
I don't know if they mentioned it in this article, but Blacklock's has also in the past obtained departmental notes from the federal government that point out exactly what the Conservatives are saying here, that it does put pressure on the health system, because of course it puts pressure on the health system. How stupid does this woman think we are? Does she think that we're as stupid as she is? I would be willing to bet that she's on on the dark side of the IQ spectrum here. If she really thinks that that's adequate, that it's okay for us to bring in millions and millions of, because some of them are doctors.
This is what I'm saying.
Honestly, who is that going to satisfy? I don't think that's even going to satisfy Lightning Rod, and that's saying something.
This is what I'm saying. Here's the Conservatives have an opportunity to stay in the straight and narrow, stay on truth when this kind of nonsense is being said over and over and over again, that it just challenges your basic common sense, makes you think you're going crazy when she says it doesn't affect it. Does the immigration department track how many immigrant doctors become licensed doctor? And she says, that's not a department function. So what is a function? That's the question. Did we just lose Ian, or did he go dark there, or what happened? Oh, there you go. The immigration department has acknowledged a large number of immigrant healthcare workers let into Canada do not work in their field. An October 3rd report, immigrant nurses in Canada, alignment between, something's going on here. An employment outcome said only 63% of foreign nurses were hired by hospitals in Canada. It just questions your common sense.
I don't know if anybody else got that just then.
What's that?
Like they're testing the alert system. And obviously it decided to cut my connection because it was that serious, that big of an alert.
Well, again, there was a committee hearing, and they brought doctors in to talk about it too. They brought doctors into a committee hearing. We were supposed to interview Dan Mazier, and I was all ready for that interview. I had all the information and that. And the doctors even said, of course it's a strain on this healthcare system. Like, again, and there's even what somebody in the comments says, like, you go into the emergency rooms, and what are you going to see? They just don't care. Look at that face. Look at that face, just basically telling you how, self-important she is, and we don't really care about that. Of course you don't care, because you don't have to worry about it, because you will have access to a doctor. And here's better. You want to talk about immigration that'll make you mad? Here, try this one on. Let's listen to this question here in committee hearing. And this is for border security here for immigrants coming to Canada.
To speed things up, because we are short-staffed, we're allowing people into the country without first doing that security screening.
Okay, hold on a second here. So you're saying that a refugee claimant coming to Canada goes to a machine and says, I want to be a refugee in Canada, hits a button, and they're in the country? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's not a machine, it's an application. So the one-touch system, they're given instructions on how to use that. That connects directly with IRCC, and they're given that documentation to complete on their own once they're in the country. We're not doing that.
So basically, they take out their phone, theoretically, and they tap it a few times, and they are now in the country as a refugee accepted by our country.
Yes, we get some basic data from them, and again, we do the biometrics. But beyond that, they're doing that on their own, yes.
So
when you come home from Mexico, it's worse. Hey, when you come home from Mexico as a Canadian citizen, it's worse than that. Do you know what I mean? It's more cumbersome. And they want your gun, so you got a legitimate permit to buy a hunting rifle. They want that. And then now, you know, you fly home from a foreign country from your vacation, and there's more. Why wouldn't you just take more people off of that? And isn't it the immigrants that are coming in from other countries that you have no idea who they are, that you should worry about them before you worry about Canadian citizens coming home from holidays from Mexico? I don't even know how to, like...
You think so?
Do you know what I mean? Like, if you had to prioritize, where should we spend our energy? On the Canadian citizens coming home from holiday, or people coming from third world countries, could be murderers, could be anything. But you just trust them to click a couple buttons on an app.
But a similar logic prevails with gun control, doesn't it? You mentioned guns. But it's like, we're going to make it as hard as possible and as miserable as possible for the people who've actually gone to get a license. They've sat the exams, and they've like with the police and everything, and they've got a little gun cabinet. They're the ones that we're going to make life harder for. Meanwhile, you know, AK-47s galore coming through the train system and and on the ships and whatnot. But I don't know. It's a sign of a kind of central authority that's so weak, really, isn't it? That they can't actually, or maybe they don't believe that they can enforce the law where it actually matters. So instead, they make a show of doing it where it's easy, you know, where you can actually see it. It's visible.
We've covered off some stuff today that the CBC won't cover off. So let's be fair to them, and let's go have a look at the CBC website there and see what it is that they're thinking is important today. Because this, obviously, you would think is important, but what do they have? What do they got going on there? Uh-oh. It's the TDS website. U.S. lays more charges and boosts rewards for capturing Canadian Olympian turned alleged drug lord. Well, I looked there just earlier there, and there were a lot of Trump stuff. Mexican federal agents want to hunt for Canadian fugitive.
I went on their YouTube. I went on their YouTube channel earlier today, and it had in massive letters, "The National," and then the headline was, "U.S. senators vote to release Jeffrey Epstein files." I was like, "The National? Are you sure that's is this the right place? Not the International?" But obviously, to a lot of people in Canada, particularly among the journalist class, you know, what happens in Washington, D.C. really is national news, because they're just so mindlessly sucked into the American world that they don't even realize it. They think that that's like, oh, it's like, you know, this is the news. But it's like, no, that's a foreign country. That's not Canada. That's not national news.
So if you go on there, almost at any given time, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation that takes $1.55 billion. How many stories are about Canada? How many stories are about Trump derangement syndrome? It's just ridiculous. And I watched on Bloomberg this morning, Bloomberg, which is the financial news here for Canada. And they were talking about the release of the Epstein files. We'll talk about it a little later. The release of the Epstein files. You know what they showed as they were talking about it? I'd say 10 pictures of Donald Trump with Epstein, trying to paint a narrative, right? You know, like Trump, 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 Epstein. Not one that showed Mark Carney with Maxwell. You know what I mean? Because there's photos out there with Carney. They didn't show any of that, to be fair. None. It was just feeding the beast, feeding the red meat to the people. This is all it is. Why don't we talk about this, where you press a button and you could be anybody and you can enter Canada. That's how we keep our nation safe. That's how we keep crime in check in Canada here. This is the immigration department worried about your safety and your health care, for that matter, because they don't track any of that stuff, because, you know, that doesn't matter. But where we do have is we created a 1-800 number for migrant justice. So they do have that. Like, when do Canadians come first in Canada? I would like to know. I just wonder when, what time. So now migrant calls, 1-800 calls, this is, again, policies that benefit the few at the expense of the many. And a lot of corporations benefit from cheap labor. But calls to this federal tip line on abuse of temporary foreign workers nearly doubled last year, up 85%. Labor Department labor figures show, no reason given. The number of calls to this 1-800 line was 14,000 tips compared to 7,500 the previous year. Second largest, it's the largest number ever recorded. Of the 14,000 calls, 4,100 of those resulted in compliance measures. 41% failed inspections. Again, Mark Miller, right? Mark Miller, the country has gotten addicted to temporary workers. That's what Mark Miller, who was the immigration minister at the time, said in October 2024. Businesses have taken advantage. Well, who gave them the ability to take advantage? Who did that? Who did that? Mark Miller, are you an owl? Who did it, Mark? Who? Remember when somebody questioned Mark Miller on the policies, and what did he say? You're a racist.
But he's not a racist, though, when he says basically the same thing, because he's Mark Miller.
Mark Miller is working with Francois-Philippe Champagne. Is he in the first ring, second ring, or the third ring? I'm not sure which ring he's in. And this one here is Patty Hadju likes to stand up there. This is from Holly Dolan Blacklock. Likes to stand up there and talk about how, you know, like Canada's feeding the kids at school. And that's what we're doing. Well, they forget to mention that they put Canadians in a spot where we have to feed the kids at school. This energy-rich nation has to rely on people feeding their kids at school. So the cabinet acknowledges, and here's the cabinet acknowledges it doesn't know how many children are actually being fed under its national school program. Ministers have repeatedly claimed 400,000, but they have no idea. The Department of Social Development said it doesn't know. But it does know it spent approximately $228 million to date. The Department of Indigenous Service said it spent $85 million on school lunches, but results are unknown. The department does not collect detailed program-level data on school food activities. Why bother? Nobody else does. Cabinet launched...
There's a serious problem with data collection, isn't there? With the federal government. It has to be said.
Cabinet launched the National School Food Program on April 1st, 24, at $200 million a year. The game changer, said Trudeau at the time, right? Remember Justin Trudeau standing there virtue signaling? It'll help more than 400,000 Canadians have something to eat. You know what could help them have something to eat? An oil pipeline, so that we could have a rich nation like Norway does with a 300,000 per capita sovereign wealth fund. That's what would help. And it says the equivalent of $2.78. But the Breakfast Club of Canada says in a 2024 testimony that $2.78 would not feed 400,000 children. They said it'd need at least $3 to $6 a day. And there are 180 school days. We would need billions of dollars. And I talked to the food bank here, and they say they send food to the schools here for lunch programs, and they get no money from the government. So the Breakfast Club cited 2023 research saying the University of Saskatchewan College of Medicine program costs average more than double the federal figure. Overall lunch programs cost on average $6.45 per person. Again, more performative, virtue signaling, and the numbers just don't add up.
But they get to say it again and again. That's why we're making sure no kid goes to school hungry. And, you know, it lets them do that. And they kind of just get away with it, don't they? The main media outlets, they don't really interrupt when they make false claims like that. So
you pick
here
fraud,
we are. And it's going to keep happening.
Fraud, waste, incompetence, corruption, what? What is it? What is it? Here's one. Here's one. Is it fraud, waste, corruption, abuse? What is it? Crackdown on art thievery. Another one from Holly owns a multi-million-dollar federal art collection will no longer lend pieces after more than 100 pieces vanished. Stuff doesn't vanish. Somebody takes it. There's no such thing as vanished, right? It's vanished. Oh, man. Said the Crown Indigenous Relations Minister, Rebecca Alty. Maybe she should vanish. Her department has declined to say whether the police were never, why the police were never called to track the paintings. So the art vanished, multi-million-dollars worth of art vanishes. Yet they didn't call the cops. Odd. The practice of lending out pieces to offices was discontinued. There's been a number of steps taken to ensure artwork is protected. Did they not know who they gave it to, or what's the deal? How did it just vanish?
And they don't even know, they didn't even tell people what paintings or what art, objet d'art. It doesn't even say which ones were taken. Losses were not detailed.
Just go in the back. Hey, just go in the back room, take what you need.
I mean, yeah, let's keep an eye on the auctions in Dubai. Let's see if some of them pop up there.
I remember that Liberal MP, I can't remember her name now. It's been a few days ago. Because you know what, the nice thing about all this kind of like waste and all that is like you can hide a lot of nonsense in it. Because she spent $176,000 in 9 days on personal expenses. That should be the story of the century here. But it wasn't on the CBC website.
Yeah, I don't think did they actually run it at all? I mean, they must have done a little nib in the background.
And then when we're going to play this clip here, remember that people can come in from other countries and they can click a couple buttons on an app here. Listen to what the police guy says, the police chief here. Listen to what he has to say.
We have seen escalations in global conflict, demographic shifts, polarization, a lack of societal cohesion, and increased impact domestically by foreign actors that impact the trust in our public institutions, including the police. These are significant to us, not because the Ontario Provincial Police have a role in foreign policy, but because they illustrate a broader reality. The geopolitical environment is altered. Events in the Middle East, the Ukraine, or Venezuela impact public safety in our small towns. Further, partnership frameworks that have governed international security for decades are shifting. For Canadian law enforcement, this means we must be thoughtful about how we develop our own operational capacity, how we leverage our intelligence resources, how our legislative norms ensure interoperability domestically and with allies. Ultimately, how we build and maintain national and border security within this environment, enhancing the safety of our communities at home.
That's, so again, if you just go back and play that clip back to the guy that says you just press a button and you can come in. He just said that where Canada's at risk from foreign actors.
But it's being played down, it's not at a federal level.
So this is immigration. Immigration doesn't affect healthcare. Immigration is not a risk. This cop says it's a risk. Just press a couple buttons. But hey, you come home from Mexico and you get the 3rd degree. What?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
From the US.
Yeah.
That's where I've had the hardest time. It wasn't me, actually. It was more my wife, who is a cradle Canadian, 100% Canadian. She was given a really hard time coming into Victoria from Seattle, I think. It's just very peculiar.
She should have come in as an immigrant, and she could have just got the app.
Yeah, exactly. She definitely burn that Canadian passport, obtain one from somewhere else,
and then see if you can get any cash money. Canada Post says it's effectively insolvent. Imagine that. It says losses just for 2025 so far, $1 billion. $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Just, hey, let's go to town. But I think Ian had a good idea, because they're trying a lot of creative accounting. We talked about it yesterday, to get NATO targets up. We should transfer all these vehicles. You got the next slide there. All these vehicles could be the new tank fleet. If you just mount a turret on them, right? All of a sudden, boom, there you go, meeting our NATO targets. You're just going to put the posties into the military. Why not?
They have uniforms already, so there's the hardest part sorted out.
right? And look at the hubcaps
Just
on
put
that.
anthrax in their letters, and they've got weapons.
The creative accounting, when they were trying to put in the all the government workers, which would include the posties. I guess they're not part of they're just Crown Corporation. They're going to put all of them in because they're just trying to get the stuff in the NATO target, and then they're going to put the Transport Canada into the military. Let's put Canada Post in, and they can offset some of the losses. Canada Post expects to lose about 30,000 employees over the next decade as it attempts to rescue broken finances. It's gonna, they don't want to do anything that's hard. They're just gonna wait for people to retire. So just keep bleeding the Canadian taxpayer while we wait for people to retire. Why not?
But what they haven't spelled out clearly is, if not enough people retire or leave voluntarily, they're obviously going to have to start cutting them loose. But they've tried to pretend that that's not even an option, but obviously that's what they'll have to do.
I haven't been to a post. Somebody just said, when's the last time you were at a post office? I haven't been forever, and I haven't gotten a letter forever. I know the business gets some letters and that, but I haven't gotten a letter from him. Why don't you write me a letter?
Sirius XM or whatever, they send me a letter every bloody day trying to get me to get serious, but that's about it. Canadian Tire likes to send flyers as well.
I haven't seen a stamp forever. How much is a stamp these days?
Too much.
I don't know. But anyway, there's your idea, because Dan Elvis put this out, transparency no longer a feature of the Liberal government. Again, if they can put the jets in these twin prop jobs into the military, why not? You're better off with the posties. Put them in there. Through rain or snow or sleet of night or whatever or is that an American one? But because the federal workers barely work 9 to 3, so the posties definitely work harder. They're in better shape, because they're walking around anyway, at least. And here's a former politician.
Not if you've got a scary dog, then that's not allowed.
Cliff Claiborne and the boys. Let's get them into the military. Kevin Klein, former politician there, says he never imagined writing a column. This is in for the Winnipeg Sun there, where we are witnessing the beginning of the end of Canada. The confidence is no longer shared. The signs are piling up province by province. I don't think he heard Mark Carney's speech there at the beginning. He should have listened to that. Confidence has never been higher in Canada. What's Kevin talking about?
Yeah. Gonna have to out-credential him somehow. Get somebody with credentials to talk this guy down.
Ian and I have talked about this several times way back. There's a bread credit there for the bread collusion deal, the bread price fixing. You can register on the website there. We got the story on Kelowna. You go there. It takes a few seconds. I've done it. Even if you don't want the money, that's what I'm going to do. If you don't want the money, get the $50 because they're paying out a $500 million settlement. Get the $50 and give it to the food bank or give it to somebody that needs it. So go apply. Make sure that you don't leave a big wad of cash sitting there for them. And go apply. Get the payment. And this is the funny one because they price fixed. That's why they got this big settlement against them. But remember the Trudeau Liberals right at the end? They wanted the grocery stores to collude and fix prices. I'm just like, you guys listen to yourselves? It's just like the companies just had to pay a settlement for price colluding, and then you're saying you want them to collude. I'm just like, it doesn't even make sense sometimes. The food professors.
What doesn't make sense to me is a loaf of bread there for $2 on that stock image that we've got. Can't remember the last time I saw
that. The food professor putting this out here, and because this is taken off here, Ozempic. It's going to actually, he's saying it's going to hurt the food industry actually because people are eating less because they've been jabbing this thing in themselves. But let's listen to this clip from the food professor.
Using it for diabetes, but the sheer volume of prescriptions has surged.
Ozempic's been very popular the last couple of years. It's kind of really taken off as medication's been used quite prominently, and seeing skyrocketing demand for it.
Dalhousie's Agri-Food Analytics Lab surveyed more than 8,000 Canadians. Nearly 47% use the drug solely for type 2 diabetes. 35% use them for weight loss alone.
These numbers are incredibly scary for the food industry. You have to understand that a lot of companies have based their business models on impulse buying.
Those behavioral changes are already showing up across grocery aisles and restaurant chains. About 50% report losing weight. Roughly the same amount say they're simply eating less. 27% claim they're going to restaurants less often, and a quarter report their alcohol consumption has decreased.
You're seeing sales drop by over $3 billion. It's 2 million people is a lot of people. It's New Brunswick and Manitoba combined.
While Ozempic has been the long-standing option, the new arrival Wegovy, a higher dose version, only hit the market in recent months and is targeted to those who want to lose weight.
That's not as popular in my pharmacy here, from what I've been hearing.
That's good. Maybe that's the new solution for the Canadians that can't get food. This is what the Liberals will pitch. You can just have yourself a shot of Ozempic or Wegovy.
I was going to say, like, what's cheaper? A monthly subscription to this very expensive drug, or buying groceries in Canada? It's probably the drug, isn't it? Like, that's probably the best option. So yeah, that's the best way to save money in Canada, is take a drug that stops you wanting to eat food.
Just before you go and sign up for this, I understand there's a lot of side effects to this drug. So,
but then the other thing that isn't mentioned, they're talking about money and stuff. The theory is that if it brings obesity rates down in Canada, then that would save a gigantic amount of money on medical expenses, because it's obviously a very expensive disease, or whatever you want to call it, for a country to have. So I don't know. Yeah. It's hard to figure it out, really, isn't it? Like the net benefit or negative.
I've lost, I think, 60 pounds about 7 years ago and kept it off, and I just changed my eating habits. It's simple. Eat whole foods as much as you can. Avoid sugar and wheat as much as you can, and just practice self-control. And instead of shooting yourself with a bunch of drugs that you're going to find out later, just like, oops, we should have told you this. And there's been lots. You can go on the internet, you can find all the side effects to this, and a lot of people have suffered from these drugs. Obviously, it works for some, and it is a diabetes medicine. So, but you know, I think mass using it, I mean, it's become very popular because it's a great way to lose weight. It's basically an appetite suppressant. Back in my day, the appetite suppressant was, you ready for it? Cigarettes, right? The girls used to start smoking, smoke, because it's an appetite
suppressant. Not want to stop, didn't they? Yeah.
There you go. BC News.
Coming to you live from the Now Media Newsroom.
Mayor Reed Hammer-Jackson. Now, a lot of concern from some of your residents here after learning that there is an Aboriginal title claim over private lands here. First question is, how long have you known about this?
I just recently learned about it, and I'm very concerned myself. So concerned that I did pick up the phone and I called former Chief Godfreyson and had a talk with him, and this has been going on for years. You know, there's been deals made where the government's paid them, the band, certain money, and there's been a lot of things happen. And I think that we really got to get, you know, the Kamloops City Council and the city have had a good relationship with the band, and I've had a relationship with them my whole life. Me and Shane played ball together and things like that when we were kids. And I think that, you know, there's been agreements between the city and Kamloops that have been going on since, you know, Mélanie Joly's days. They had agreements. And
BC's, Adrian Dix, the latest one to become a pragmatist here in Canada, former #1 virtue signaler. Adrian Dix is scrapping the EV mandate, also scrapping the $4,000 vehicle rebate thing, says it's no longer realistic and push responsibility of the EV mandate onto the federal government. So what is going on? Is this just a pragmatic revolution here in Canada?
Or it's we need to save our own skin revolution, perhaps. I think that's probably more likely, isn't it?
Yeah, it's wild, eh? They were just adamant on this EV mandate, adamant. And again, I love EVs. I drive an EV, been driving one for 2 years, but forcing anybody to do anything is the wrong way to do it. Imagine that, right? Let people have a choice. People will buy stuff when it's better. It's more convenient. It offers value. And it's less expensive.
It drives itself. That would be another reason to buy it.
That's right. I am the worst driver now because I don't have any experience driving for the last 2 years. The car's driving itself. So, Gavin Dew, he put out they're putting in some amendments to the Airbnb policy. Well, he's asking the government to look at it. He said time and time again, the EV government keeps treating municipalities like children, imposing their one-size-fits-all. And I've had many interviews with BC NDP, including Brenda Bailey twice on this, and they are adamant on this Airbnb rule. They are just...
EP as well, if you remember. There was a bit of drama there because their candidate in the provincial election, Loyal Wildridge, tried his hardest, didn't he? Because he knew how unpopular it was in Kelowna. So he tried to kind of work within the confines of the BC NDP. And then we had a chat with David Eby, or you interviewed him, and he was like, no compromise. And I think Loyal might have got a bit of a slap for that.
And I cited their study that they used. They said they used this study to put in this rule. And the study, funded by BC Hotel Association. I said, isn't that a conflict?
Vehemently denied by David Eby at the time, now, wasn't it?
I said, isn't that a conflict of interest? They said no. And I asked that question, I think, 3 times to EB and Brenda Bailey twice. And they said absolutely not. And then they did alter that report because it used to be like a big logo there, but now they've hidden the logo. It's like it's still there, but it's very, very tiny. So obviously.
But it's quite, Gavin Dew does make a pretty strong point. It's not a new point, I don't think. Lots of other people have made this point, but British Columbia is massive. It's got lots of different towns and cities, lots of different people as well, like politically, culturally. It is a bit foolish. It's a bit of a stretch, isn't it, to think that you can put down these like blanket rules that come from ultimately Metro Vancouver. Like that's where the philosophy originates. That's not going to apply to northern BC, is it?
Well, we're about to head into our international news. So if you have TDS, maybe shut it off for now or get ready to start throwing out your hatred. But we got a lot going on in the international section, including lots about goats. Let's go.
Coming to you live from the Now Media Newsroom.
We're going to kick it off first with Scott Bessett. I like Scott Bessett a lot. He's a straight shooter. Gotta like straight shooters. Scott Bessett, let's listen to what Scott has to say about investment in the United States of America. Lumped in there is our friends Brookfield in this total that he talks about. Let's listen.
What do you say to folks who want to know a total number of all these investments that the president's bringing in, the tariffs that have been implemented and bringing in? Do you have a big figure? Do you have a total number?
Well, the president uses the number 20 trillion in terms of total investments. And I think that those commitments that are real. And whether it's corporate investment, whether it's the Japanese trade deal where they're going to put in $550 billion, that whether it's the Korean trade deal with $350 billion, whether it's Apple saying that they're going to reshore, I believe
that's good. You get the point there. Lots of money, including Brookfield at let's just put Brookfield at 100 billion Canadian or 80 billion US dollars in that lump there, because they are Cameco, Canadian company, and Brookfield are joint owners of Westinghouse, and Westinghouse signed a deal to put in 8 nuclear reactors for the United States of America. So there you go. In that number is a lot of Canadian companies. A lot of Canadian companies are in there. So,
although these numbers, we should say, are kind of being chucked around, aren't they? Like the proof will be in the pudding, though I'm sure it'll still be a lot of money. But I think that's why Scott Bessent there said, you know, the figure President Trump uses, because it's like he didn't want to say it. He wanted it to be Trump. He's hanging it on his.
He is. I like Scott Bessent. You know, one thing about Scott Bessent that's really cool about Scott Bessent is that he's got a husband, but you never know it. Do you know what I mean? He never throws that card out there. Never tries to play it. Never does anything. Scott just talks straight, and he just schooled somebody there. I think it was on MSNBC, and they say, "Oh, you must have made a lot of money in the stock market, or you got a blind trust." And he's like, "Nope, there's no such thing as a blind trust. I sold all my stocks." Mark Carney, on the other hand, blind trust, and he still doesn't deal with the conflicts of interest. And I said, you know, like Scott Bessent should come to Canada. He could be making out like a bandit. We got Donald Trump in the room. He's got some royalty in the room there. And this royalty is throwing around the cash money. And, you know, you're not supposed to touch the crown prince. That's kind of one of the rules. But obviously, Donald Trump gets some special privileges there. Let's listen in here.
Does Trump blow them all away?
No, it's another league, Mr. President.
Mr. President, and Trump doesn't give a fist pump. I grabbed that hand. I don't give a hell where that hand's been. I grabbed that hand.
It reminds me of a Seinfeld episode, you know, sometimes with Trump talks about himself in the third person, just like, remember George when he did that thing? George doesn't like this, George doesn't like that when he talks about himself in the third person. Anyway.
But also just the way that he gives you an indication of what's in his mind. He basically tells you by the things that he says, because, you know, it's widely rumored, almost to the point of it being a fact, that he has that he's weird about germs and he's not very happy about shaking people's hands. And then he said, you know, I don't care where that hand's been. And that's also obviously in his head, clearly, is this idea like, oh, did he go to the toilet with that hand kind of thing, as they do in the Arab fashion. As they say, it's obviously in his head, isn't it? But he's such a strange guy. He's such a David Brent kind of figure that he's just like telling everybody, it's like, nope, don't care where that hand's been. Yeah, woohoo. It's some good cringe.
Well, the Crown Prince there, there was a lot that happened, and you got to go watch it. There was a lot that happened in this interaction, but the Crown Prince did commit to $1 trillion. And I know some people in some of the media in Canada was like, that math doesn't even add up. Their economy is not worth $1 trillion. Well, that's not their economy that he's investing. They have a lot of money in the bank. You know how they have a lot of money in the bank, or that they have? They sell their oil. They sell their oil. But, you know, like, I mean, people just take a number and they say, well, GDP is not even $1 trillion. We're not investing their GDP. They're investing the vast fortunes they have. They have investments all over the world. And how do they have that investment? Where did they get it from? Where did they get that money from? Ian? Anywhere?
Beautiful, delicious, tasty, sweet crude oil.
Texas tea, black gold, bubbling up, Beverly Hillbillies. That's the kind of stuff, right? Texas tea. And then the goats in the room. The goats back. The back in the room as well. Here's one of the goats showed up, and finally it looks like there's some fence mending there. There's the ultimate goat, Elon Musk, in the room with a couple other goats. Greatest of all time, and is most consequential man on this planet as far as companies go and technology goes. Back in the room. Trump touching him as well. Let's play this clip here. There you go. No sound there. As Elon is back in the room with the Crown Prince. Elon spends a lot of time in the Middle East as well, doing lots of deals with X. The Saudis, big investors in many of Elon Musk's companies too, XAI and different things like that too. The Saudis have money that they throw around, and they invest in a lot of stuff. And I imagine that's why Mark Carney is going to the UAE to see if he can get some of that money flowing into Canada. You know what the thing is, though? Here's the sad truth, Mark Carney. we could have the same amount of money as the UAE because we have vast oil reserves that you won't and your liberals won't let us sell. You're going there to ask, literally, they're going there to ask them for their money to invest in Canada that they got from, not from selling sand, they got from selling oil. We're going to go beg them for their carbon-filled oil money, dirty money, to invest in Canada because we don't want to sell our own oil for our own money.
Because we don't want to upset Quebec and the environmental coalition, who might knock the Liberal Party out of power.
Can you figure that out? Anybody?
Just to finish off that idea.
Lightning rod. Any thoughts on that? We're going there to beg the UAE for their money that they made from oil to invest in Canada when we could have our own money by selling our own oil. Because according to even Mark Carney, we have the 4th largest oil reserves in Canada, or in the world. Does it make sense? Make it make sense to me before I go mad, crazy. CBC.
And it's not just Saudis, because you could easily dismiss the Saudis as like whatever you want to say, corrupt or tyrants or whatever. But it's also countries like Norway, isn't it? Which you mention from time to time.
Here goes Lightning Rod with a bunch of distractions. Why don't you just answer the question, Lightning Rod? Come on, be fair. Why is Mark Carney going to the UAE to get money to invest in Canada when we could have our own money to invest in Canada? It's weird, isn't it? It's really weird.
Oh, to add to that, like you said, why are we going there to get their money, which they've generated because of oil, while we've suppressed our own oil, oil and gas?
Is Canadian oil competitively priced? What does oil sells at a market price of the world? It's the world price. Come on, man. Come on. We already did the Western Canadian Select thing. We're not going to do it again just because you want to just jump around. Anyway, at the tables, here we got Elon Musk, in the room. Can we get a meeting like this in Canada? In the room, Apple CEO, Ford CEO, GM CEO, NVIDIA CEO. The room was just full of money. Money, 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 and investment and just tons of it. And Trump, in his speech in that room, said, and this is a wild one, and I'm not sure why the Canadian media is not picking up to it. Trump says, Ford and GM stock prices are soaring higher because Ford and GM asked for the tariffs so that we could bring home truck manufacturing to the United States. Why isn't the Canadian media saying, what? What happened there? Is that true? Did Ford and GM ask for that? Did Ford and GM ask for the tariffs to force truck production back to the United States of America?
It's an interesting question.
That should be a question, no? Like if he just said it and the Ford and GM guy didn't jump up and they didn't say, that's bullshit. Nope. And then even, here's some more goats in the room. Guess who this goat is? Uh-oh. Does anybody know who that is?
It's Howard Lutnick, everybody.
Come on.
It's Ronnie, who somehow is still... Oh, he got sent off. He got sent off the other day. He got a red card in a World Cup qualifying game. So he's not very goaty right now.
So they had
but
Christian
he is a superb player.
Cristiano Ronaldo, who called the GOAT the GOAT. He called Trump the GOAT. And also in the room was one of the first GOATs of all that got called the GOAT. The Tiger was in the room. And he's got to be the biggest GOAT of all. No? Tiger Woods?
All right.
He's not in this picture. You're looking for Tiger.
Yeah, he's not in the picture, yeah.
He's in the room, though. The Tiger was in the room.
Yeah? Is he better than... I don't really know golf, to be honest. Is he better than Jack Nicklaus, or considered to be?
He's the greatest of all time, man. Like Muhammad Ali said. He's the greatest of all time.
Right.
Don't mess with Ali.
McIlroy, he's all right as well, isn't he?
He's an English guy. Come on.
He's from Northern Ireland. He wouldn't like that. I am not English.
Yeah, the Tiger is the greatest of all time. The House passed by 427-1 to release all the Epstein files. And again, like I said, they were running on Bloomberg this morning, just pictures of this with Trump and Epstein. Just absolutely like lunacy, just absolute lunacy. They're not very fair in their renditions. Did we lose Ian again, or he's still there? He just went to blackout
I'm
again.
still here.
Oh, there you go. You were black there for a while. But here you go.
Just like Justin Trudeau.
Nice. And then we got Jesse Waters. Jesse Waters, he's a regular on the show now, actually. He's talking about a little bit of the Epstein file. We'll just play a small couple seconds of this when he starts bringing in some of the Democrats into this. Hakeem Jeffries actually was looking to fundraise from Epstein. I won't even play it, I don't think. But it looks like Hakeem was trying to get some money from Epstein even after he was tried. Why not, though, eh? And then I was going to play this, but we're getting a little long in the tooth. But I do want to show you Toyota. We're going to go past that. Macron, who wants to listen to Macron anyway? The Toyota CEO. Well, he was a former CEO. He's just the chairman now. But he's gone full MAGA. He was at the NASCAR there thing, and he jumped out of the vehicle there. And you got the MAGA hat on and a Trump Vance T-shirt and everything. We go to the next one there. So there you go. If you're driving a Toyota and you got TDS, put her up for sale. Because remember how, like Elon Musk was a Nazi, you had to sell your car? Well, turns out Toyotas are the same thing. And I imagine Fords and GMs are too, because they were there in that room full of Elon Musks and really bad people. Now what?
It's well known.
Now what? Now what? Yeah, now what is the question, right? Now we're gonna go past that. But here's a good one. If you got some junk in your house and you want to get rid of it and you don't want to take it to the dump, just wrap it up and put it in a box on the front porch. Watch, if you wrap something up, make it look like it's expensive, they'll come collect it for you for free. Here's play this little clip here. Turn off the sound, the Christmas music there. Look, so if you wrap up your old TV you were trying to get rid of, they'll come get it.
What's funny is you absolutely have no idea whether this is AI generated these days, do you? Because it's so good.
But I mean, just think about it.
AI videos for the porch piracy.
Just think about it. If you got stuff you're trying to get rid of and you don't want to go to the dump, you want to pay the tipping fee, you can just wrap it up. Put it on the front porch. Somebody will come collect it for you.
Yeah, and you can even do a little poo in it as well, just as a treat.
And this is your friend God Saad there. He's listening to this in the city of Toronto as they talk about this. You listen to this for a bit and see if it doesn't help you lose your mind. But here you go.
To address the physical portion of the gender transition, whereas OHIP are the physical, actually gender reallocation. So it would be
That's good enough.
Covered.
So you get the idea, and they go on and they say this thing, and then another guy comes on and says that he recognizes that the music was in there, that he recognizes that he lives in on stolen land and all that, and then
he's stolen gender, and now he needs to give it back, I guess.
But hey,
it's so strange seeing this, though. Again, it's a point I've made many times, but I'll make it again. It is like we're living in the past. The rest of the world is living in another decade, it seems, but we're still in the 2010s, aren't we? Here in Canada, it's like time travel. If you come to this country from another country, you're time traveling. You can go back to the 2010s. It is possible.
So yeah, so if you're trying to get rid of your stuff on your front porch, print off some fake UPS stickers. You can do that and put valuable goods and put a couple of stickers on there. This is really expensive or whatever, and you can get rid of your old journal even. Anything you need to get rid of. Especially if you live in a major city. And there you go. That's our show for today. And again, I'm off to Tokyo for 10 days, and it'll be Ian and Andrea. I don't know, I might pop in, I don't know, we'll see how it goes, but again, be extra kind there to Andrea. She's just starting on this. She sat in a few times before. She's gonna be with Ian here for the next few days. I think it's about 6 days, actual six days on screen. And if you could help us share our message and get this out to more people, because you're gonna learn more here than you're gonna learn on CBC, I guarantee that. That's why Lightning Rod comes back all the time. We love him for that, you know. And see, there he is. He said he could be a guest host anytime. When I come back, we can talk about it. I thought we asked you once before to come on, and you said...
Yeah, we asked you, mate.
We asked you, and you said no. Now all of a sudden you're getting some courage. You must be drinking a few bottles of courage in the morning, a couple of Labatt's Light. And or maybe some Schooner beer. Where's Lightning Rod from? Are you from which part of Canada are you from, Lightning Rod? I don't know.
He's thinking about it. What should I say?
Like, Anyway, we won't keep you too long. Lightning Rod doesn't want to let us know where he's from. Maybe he's right here from Kelowna. Who knows?
It's fine. He's sober, he says.
Pretty sober. It didn't say sober.
Pretty sober. Just a few brewskis this morning.
It's pretty sober. It's pretty good for a Canadian. There you go. So he's only had a few. Well, again, it's only like just before 11, so they have a few by. Anyway, again, I'll be off and for this Thursday, Friday, and then following week. And again, if you could help us share this message out there, that'd be great. And we appreciate you, and we appreciate you for... well, one last thing. I do have the mayor of Kelowna in here at 11, and we'll see if we can make him laugh. But again, stay safe out there. Stay safe out there and demand more, right? And look at the CBC. Just maybe send them a letter and say, send us some of the cash, because they're surely not making good use of it. They're not the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. They should be renamed, get a new logo, the TDS Network, feeding vile hatred to the people that will still watch their nonsense. There you go. Hit that like button. Agree with that, Diana. Thank you for that. Hit the share button. Hit it all. Ring the bell. Do whatever you need to do. And cheerio until I'm back. And then, again, we do thank you for watching Now Media.
We don't just report the news. We live here, too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.